everybody for being here. Coach will make a brief statement, and then if you have a question, raise your hand, and we'll get you the wireless microphone.
Yeah, I don't have much to open with other than thanking the Hokie fans that were over in Chapel Hill. Always impressed with the turnout. And I know there was obviously disappointment, but we've moved on to the next week at this point. We're excited about the challenge in Pitt. Good football team, physical team. Looking forward to getting back out on the field today. I'll take some questions.
You said after the game that you've seen guys making plays, explosive plays at practice, and hasn't really carried over to the game. Have you experienced that before as a coach, and how do you get over that hurdle and start getting that to show up in a game?
Yeah, I think we're making some in practice. We're not making the plays to go equal what North Carolina did. I think they were 13 or 14 explosives. We were 2 or 3. But there's opportunities. When you look at the film, the explosive runs, if we make a block on the perimeter, it goes from being a 5 or 6 yard run to 13 or 14, an explosive play. There's just areas in the throw game and the run game where if we do one or two things better, it's got an opportunity to be an explosive play. And I've seen us do that. I've seen us execute well enough where, it's the same thing defensively. When something, you just got one or two guys that aren't in the right place, a minimal run or a minimal pass play turns into an explosive. That's generally how it happens. Now, with North Carolina, I think their guys made some plays. That's another way that you garner explosives. You just, somebody makes a play. But, so we're certainly talking about it. We seem to, at least when we put an emphasis on something throughout the week, in my opinion, we've trended that way and we've gotten better in that area. And so, the explosives is something we talked about all camp. After each and every practice, that next morning meeting, we'd have a discussion and a PowerPoint for the team about who won the explosive play battle in that practice, the offense or the defense. So we're going to get back to some of that.
You have Malachi and Dorian listed on the depth chart. I know it's early in the week, and I don't know how much the depth chart means. Do you feel confident about them or encouraged at all by that?
Again, I think it's early in the week. I really got to see them Tuesday and Wednesday and feel better about it. I think, everybody's got a chance right now. I think Malachi probably just from a spirit and a demeanor standpoint has really kind of crossed the threshold, and I think he's anxious and eager and feels pretty confident.
Let's go Aaron and then Brooke, and then we'll go.
Brent, when you talk about explosive, is your definition defined like by a certain amount of yardage, or is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's an NCAA across the board. 12 yards or more is an explosive run. 15 or more is an explosive pass. It's pretty much the universal mark.
And I'm noticing on the depth chart here, Jalen Jones, wide receivers. Are you seeing some things out of him that you're liking?
Yeah, we thought he did pretty good. He did some good things in the game, and he's one of those guys just on that second tier that kind of teases you and shows you some things, and him and Christian and Gosnell and these guys that just got to keep coming. He's certainly one of them.
Brooke?
Coach, on Saturday, I know when you're in front of the media, you're kind of speaking to the public, and you were kind of saying to the fans, it's going to take time, be patient. Do you feel like you have to have that same conversation with the team, or do you feel like the kids are just kind of buying in and they know that this process will take time to see the success you want?
I think with the team, my message to them was we're closer than they think. And, we just got to do more things right. And all of a sudden, it's a knotted up game in the fourth quarter and you got a chance to win it against good people. And so we try to show them on film, Sunday, that, these are the missed opportunities that we've made in practice or in other situations. We do it here. Look what happens. We catch this ball on 3rd and 10. We drop into coverage where we're supposed to on 4th and 3. So there's opportunities in all three phases right now for us to play what I consider our potential to be. And we're just, that's the whole thing. It's, getting to your potential week after week after week, and good teams do that for the most part. And right now we're not hitting it. We're not playing to our potential consistently enough. And so the message to them was, we're not the type of team, and that's not a negative. We're not the type of team where the offense is just going to go dominate and you win 60-58. We're not the type of team where we're going to go win 3-0. We're not the type of team that's going to have a blocked kick and 2 punt returns for touchdowns. We got to play complementary ball. We all got to do our part in each 3 phases, and if we do that, we're good enough to beat anybody left on our schedule.
Anthony in the back of the room.
Coach, you obviously have some history coaching against Coach Narduzzi at Pitt. Does that help to have that familiarity when you've played against a coach like that, even though you were in separate conferences?
I think, I do know what Coach is about, and I've got a lot of respect for him. They're going to play a physical brand of ball and play good defense and get on the other side of the line of scrimmage and run the ball, and there's a lot of respect about all of that. But it's a new offensive coordinator, so that piece is a little different. Defensively, still similar, to what they've been doing. But yeah, we played them 4 years in a row. It had some good contests with them, so definitely got outside of some other teams in the ACC, this is one that I'm pretty familiar with, as well as some of our staff.
Are there any emotions for you coaching your first game in your home state as a head coach?
I consider Virginia my home state, so.
How's Stephen Gosnell doing? Is he all right after the?
Yeah, that's going to be touch and go. Those head injuries, man. Everybody's going to err on the side of caution there, and rightfully so. So, I'd say that one's a long shot.
What stands out to you about this Pitt team and the way they play?
I think it's their front. I've always believed you go the way your front goes on both sides of the ball. There's not many times if your front doesn't play well, which I think our defensive line needs to play better. We've played pretty good for a couple of weeks. We didn't have our best game Saturday. It's hard to play good offense or defense if your front's not playing well. And these guys consistently on the D-line play well.
What kind of positives jumped out to you when you were looking back and watching the film from North Carolina?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought we ran the ball better, not near where we want to be, but there was progress there. I thought our competitive edge was better than it was against West Virginia. I thought we came out better and had a better look in our eye. So there's a lot of positives on there. There has been every week. And it's about building on those and correcting the things that need corrected. So,
Paul, and then Andy.
Brent, you mentioned turning the page. Whether it's a win or a loss, is that something that you have to learn, or as a player you have to be taught how to do, or just as a football player does that just come naturally to them to, okay, this game is done on Saturday, now we move on to Pitt starting on Sunday?
No, I think there's a sense of ownership in all of it. And I don't think you turn the page too quickly. I think what you're talking about is coaching. We have to kind of direct that whole thing. We've got to live in that loss or that win enough to gain value from it, and then you got to move forward. And it's about being 1-0 the next week. So we certainly talked about some positives on Sunday. We talked about some things that we have to improve. There were some hard conversations, mindset, culture, a lot of things. And, and then it's time to kind of move on, right? You can't dwell in it. And, I always go back to, it's not that anybody on this football team wanted to play poorly or wanted to make a mistake or purposely didn't do what we needed to have done as a coach or player. And, so it's about learning from it and growing.
Andy and Jermaine.
I know you've got 4 games to play around with some of these freshmen on the redshirt decision. Are you considering going full bore with guys like Mansour Delane and Daquan Wright, who seemed to play pretty well the other day?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. Right now, those guys are, hey, we got to get 4 out of them, and then we'll evaluate it. If they're trending enough and doing enough good things, well, then let's keep playing them. There's a couple. Braylon Moore's in that conversation. Xavier Chaplin, Cam Johnson. We got some guys in that conversation. Those are the 2 that kind of have jumped out. We've already played Burgos. He's played 5 games now. He's one of those true freshman guys that we've burned a shirt on and going to play him, and that's been mostly on special teams, to be honest. Kyrie Moiston's a guy that we're considering. We're having a lot of conversations about these guys and trying to invest in them a little bit more and bring them along. And then you get to game 3 or 4 and you got to make a decision.
Did Delane and Wright impress you with how they handled the situation for the first time being on the field?
Yeah, I think so. It was a small dose, not a large sample, but enough to say, and we've kind of seen some of that from both of them in practice, which is why they got the opportunity they got.
And just one more. Gosnell, the hit on him, you said after you're surprised they picked up the flag. Did you see clarification from the ACC?
Yeah, we did. We turned it in, and they came back and said they would have ruled it the same way.
They would have ruled it that it was not.
That it was not targeting.
Did they say why?
I did not. But we did turn it in and got clarification back this morning. A couple of the other penalties that were called, they felt like shouldn't have been called, but or should have been called and weren't. But that one they confirmed.
Coach, you've played an early morning / early afternoon game. You played a 3:30 game mid-afternoon. You've played night games. What is your preference as far as time? Do you have a personal preference on when you'd like to play a game?
No, I don't. I don't. I'm not sure if the players do. They probably like an afternoon or probably a night game if it's Lane Stadium, obviously. We practice in the spring in the mornings. We practice in the fall in the afternoon, and all that's kind of planned to make sure that we're out there competing at the time of day that we may be playing some ball games in, so that nothing's new. Yes, I don't have a preference myself. I mean, if I could play a night at Lane Stadium, I guess that would be it. Any time in Lane Stadium is a good one.
Let's go Aaron, and then we'll head out to Zoom.
Brent, I know in the preseason you guys talked about wanting to take 1 to 2 deep shots a quarter, I think it was, and Grant afforded that opportunity. Are you comfortable with how many deep shots you're taking? Do you need to take more? Is there something that needs to happen in the receiving game to make that more possible? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to take a few more. We underthrew one just a little bit to Caleb on Saturday that had a chance to be a big play in the game, a momentum shifter. I know as a defensive play caller, it's scary because the PIs are so common and those guys connecting or the ball's underthrown. Like the 4th down play at North Carolina, Chamari's in good shape. It's underthrown, and the wide receiver has a better chance to adjust and make a play. I mean, it's just you throw the ball down the field, and a lot of times something good can happen. It's worth the opportunity. It's worth the risk of potentially being 2nd and 10, or 3rd and 5. So that's something we've talked about.
All right, let's go out to Zoom for a few questions.
On Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to ask questions, and we'll start with Mike Barber, please.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious, considering maybe some of the toll that's been – oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you loud and clear, man.
So, Travis
is working on it. One second. We good, Travis? All right, give it a shot.
All right, let's try it again. I'm curious, you want to have more explosive plays, take some shots down the field. How do you balance that with the need to possess the football and give your defense a chance to maybe catch its breath?
Yeah, that is the challenge, right? And right now I'm not trying to mandate anything. I want these guys to kind of trust their instincts as play callers and coaches. And, I think that, we have to be able to be mindful of each phase. And that's my job, but at the same time, we got to continue to grow as units and, figure out a little bit more where we are, what we're about, show some improvement in some areas. And while doing that, giving us a chance to play complementary ball. So that's one of the great challenges, right? What you're asking is, that's when you can achieve that, you got a pretty good chance to be successful, and that's obviously the goal.
And obviously, a quarterback always takes too much of the criticism, probably gets too much credit when things are good. But as you look at Grant, are you getting what you expected, or have you had to tailor what you're asking him to do once you kind of saw the bullets flying?
No, I think this. Our summary right now is, about 90% of the time, maybe even more, Grant's really on cue and doing some good things. There's just a handful of plays each game that you kind of scratch your head at, and and you kind of work through those and have him gain some understanding and move forward. But for the most part, he's doing everything we hoped he'd do or that he can be. It's just this handful of plays. We got to eliminate a few of them. Turn those into positives.
Thank you.
Yes.
We go to David Teal, please.
Brent, does Pitt's tendency to play press coverage almost dare a team to take the deep shots that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think you have to. We have in the past, playing these guys, and we play a bunch of press ourselves, and so our offense is familiar with that. And I think working releases and being able to throw the ball down the field into press coverage is healthy. It's a good thing. You got to try and do it.
You said after the game that Keyshawn just looks a step off, that he's only at about 80%. Was that first quarter swing pass out on the flat an example of that, where it looked like maybe he could have sidestepped that tackler and turned that into a really big play?
Yeah, and I don't know. I haven't asked Keyshawn if it's 80%, but, I think that's one of those plays. What you saw is what I saw. When he caught that ball, I said he's going to take this. I've seen him do it. And I just think he's just off, just a half a step, which can be enough. And got to get him back 100% and on all cylinders, because we know what he can do when he is. And, you get Malachi back and it offsets some things, and that also helps keep people honest a little bit and maybe open up some things for Keyshawn.
Thank you.
We go to Evan and maybe one more on Zoom.
Yeah, you touched on some of the freshmen, and with Malachi possibly coming back, what are you seeing from Bryce Duke? It looks like he's burned the red shirt. So what's the expectation for him moving forward if Malachi comes back?
Yeah, Bryce Duke is a guy that is bringing value, and you are correct. We've decided to play Bryce, and he's a guy in short yardage, tight red zone. He's a north-south guy that does a good job. He understands protections well. So he's a guy that, is kind of in that Holston role a little bit. And, again, he's bringing value on teams. Once we decide to play these guys, and that responsibility on special teams is going to grow as well. A guy that's only going to play 10, 12 plays a game potentially, let's make sure he's starting on two teams and getting some experience and bringing value that way.
And last one on Zoom, we'll go back to Mike, please.
Yeah, Coach, one more on Wells and the quarterback position. Coaches who have returning quarterbacks talk about the advantage of knowing what their quarterback is comfortable with, having that communication with the OC, the quarterback coach, the head coach. The process of building that with a new coaching staff, a transfer quarterback, how has that gone and where is it at?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, the relationship continues to grow and build. And, we're going through that not just with Grant, but with our football team and our staff and coaching games together and, the nuances that occur. But, I think you look around and those guys that are fifth and sixth year quarterbacks, guys that have had the same coordinator for multiple years, things like that, those guys tend to play very well. You're in a system, and the better you know the system and the more comfortable you are with the play caller and with your position coach, the better. So, I always equated it the same as the Mike linebacker in our defensive structure. I mean, that guy's really got to be an extension of the play caller on the field. And, so it's the familiarity is important and does help.
Thank you.
No more on Zoom. We'll go back to Travis.
All right, last one in the room for Anthony in the back.
Coach, you go from preparing it for Drake May, quarterback, who obviously, made a bunch of plays with his legs, to Slovis, who, obviously is probably not going to do that as much. What different challenges does that present, and what does he bring to the table at the QB position?
Yeah, I think Slovis, he's still a multi-threat guy. What he does is extend plays and look to throw the football. Drake, to me, once the read wasn't there, he was, I did a bad job, just really spying him, covering him up, making sure we had enough in our rush lane to handle him. But, Slovis can get around. He shows that on film, and, he's taken some hits, but he's one of those guys. I mean, there's some throws that you question, and then there's throws you go, man, that's a big league throw. I mean, and when you have the ability to run the ball like they do and establish the run and set up the bootleg and the play action, and, and they do a nice job of that. He's the perfect quarterback for that.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, appreciate it, everyone.